Um, oh, okay. Um, and, she's, won many, many awards, and I think is a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. Did you all know that there is an academy? So, just like for the Oscars, I was so happy to find that out a few years ago. So, Anne, would you like to read Fruit Etude? And there are several of them. It goes on for 2 pages, but it's not too bad.
Okay. Melon is hard on the outside, tender on the inside. She has a magnificent personality, so they bred her with an invasive species. Now she is seedless and childless, has become uncouth and jokey. She will die on the vine. Cherry. Her grandmother says Cherry is sweet and kind. If you ruin her, I'll come to your house, drag you out by your ear, take a hard branch off your crooked ancestry tree and beat you blind. And when I'm dead, I'll haunt you, curse you, throw magic spells, turn you into a hapless, gonadless monkey just for thrills. Onion, not a fruit. They chopped off your head during the revolution. Although you have a French passport, I can tell you are a faker from your bad accent. How dare you think that you could float to the top in the soup of history? Peach for Paul Gauguin. I shaved off all my fuzz, even around my navel, because you are a sick fool and like shaved girls. You take a first bite expecting to get juicy, but instead you get a mouthful of needles from a shaman in Tahiti. Bowl. I'm a Cherry Moya migrant, not a crazy rich Asian. Don't put us all into the same bowl in a tropical jamba juice swirl.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Chris. Thank you. And so that's quite a thing that she does, what she does with all these different fruits and a bowl, and actually an onion is not a fruit. But it's almost like a trampoline. The fruits and these edible things and all the associations. And I wanted to show this to you because I mean, who would have ever thought that you could do, you could be sassy with fruit and funny and have a point of entry for historical, make historical, actually pretty profound statements. The one with the Tahiti, she moved, she moves from object with such personal contagions. Yes, absolutely. And she's angry. I mean, rightfully so. And tragic. But I wanted to get your sense of what you think about what she's doing here with these.
Well, I mean, I could mention something. The title is interesting to me. It's Etudes. When I was a younger person, I had a former career as a musician. I played bass tuba. But one of the things that we did in our lessons was play etudes that came from these books. I think they were largely cello parts that were, written down an octave for tuba. But anyway, it was more of a sense of study, though, or practice, not really live performance. It was meant to hone your skills. It wasn't necessarily meant for public consumption. But the idea of a study and, sort of like a still life, you could almost imagine these things, like you say, in the bowl. But yeah, etude, I thought was sort of an odd title.
Ah, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how that came up. It's interesting how she, goes from, it's a jumping off point. And I guess she kind of plays it safe by calling it etude because, as you say, it's like scales. But I think they really hold together, and food for thought. I mean, the onion, she has an attitude here. But that's interesting, Tim, about, that perspective of it being, something you do, but you don't really share. It's like your practice. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
also the like still lives for painting. Other instruments do that, etude stuff too. But still lives that are bowls of fruit on the table, and are sometimes belittled in the artistic community because what possible emotional or, isn't that a safe topic? So I thought, what political statement could you possibly make with a still life? And so to have the direction these various things go is quite
Yeah.
different from that expectation.
Yes, absolutely. You're not expecting it. You're expecting something more mundane and kind of, oh, isn't that peach beautiful? Well, no, she takes us in a whole different direction. So just something to think about, in your own work. You really can use so many things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a poem, but there you've got it. And so I thought of, anything is possible when you start to think about a subject for a poem. And you can see all these fruits and the onion. You can almost taste it. And she's she's also playing with us too. Something that you can do in a poem. But let's keep going, and unless you have other comments. Okay. Allen Ginsberg. Always nice to come across him. and this is one that really goes in a lot of different directions, but I thought it would be good to see what he does with food in a supermarket, and kind of his, we'll discuss it after. But Chris, would you like to read that?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. I have this other thing that I'm trying to get out. Hold on. Is that on my screen? Okay, there we go.
A Supermarket in California by Allen Ginsberg. What thoughts I have for you tonight, Walt Whitman, for I've walked down the side streets, under the trees with a headache, self-conscious, looking at the full moon. In my hungry fatigue and shopping for 8 images, I went into the neon fruit supermarket, dreaming of your enumerations. What peaches and what panorbras, while whole families shopping at night, aisles full of husbands, wives in the avocados, babies in the tomatoes, and you, Garcia Lorca, what were you doing down by the watermelons? I saw you, Walt Whitman, childless, lonely, old grubber, poking among the meats in the refrigerator and eyeing the grocery boys. I heard you asking questions of each. Who killed the pork chops? What price bananas? Are you my angel? I wandered in and out of brilliant stacks of cans following you, and I followed in my imagination by the store detective. We strode down the open corridors together in our solitary fancy tasting artichokes, possessing every frozen delicacy and never passing the cashier. Where are you going, Walt Whitman? The doors close in an hour. Which way does your beard point tonight? I touch your book and dream of your odyssey in the supermarket, and I feel absurd. Will we walk all night through the solitary streets? The trees add shade to shade, lights out in the houses. We'll both be lonely. Will we stroll dreaming of the lost America of love past blue automobiles and driveways, home to our silent cottage? Ah, dear father, gray beard, lonely old courage teacher, what America did you have when Charon quit pulling his ferry and you got out on the smoking bank and stood watching the boat disappear on the black waters of Leith?
Ah, beautiful. Thank you. You know, he really takes us on quite a journey here. Like Walt Whitman, you know, just with long sentences, moving, almost prose poetry. Beautiful, beautiful. And using the supermarket as, again, kind of like a springboard. All the luscious things that he sees, not so luscious, the pork chops, and what do you come away with from this poem, especially as you go down to Charon? Who knows what Charon? What's the job of Charon?
He takes the souls into the underworld over the
Yes.
river, from the living world to Hades.
Hades, yeah. Yeah, so how do we get there? I mean, it is kind of an homage to Waltman, how we come from a supermarket in Berkeley, in California, to to the River Styx. And I think, and we have Garcia Lorca here, and it all seems to flow. I mean, at least for me, I never asked at any point, wait a minute, how did we get here to Garcia Lorca? How did we come to Walt Whitman after the cans and the artichokes? But it's all kind of flowing together. And the question is, how does he do it? How does he make it, you know, that we're just on this ride? And I mean, you know, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but one idea is that the supermarket kind of is the thing that we can hold on to, right? That at least that gives us some foundation. And that's familiar. But where he takes us in there is you know, that's another story. But I think the fact that he situates it in the supermarket and something that we can all relate to gives us that foundation to just go with him.
Sarah?
Yes.
I was just gonna say, it feels like it's purpose because the supermarket is maze-like, and I feel like he's using that as, you know, the box of life that we're in. And
Yes,
all of these things are happening and we just, start at the beginning. What is at the end, right?
right,
There-
right.
Gun world in the dark. But I feel like the supermarket really is that box, that maze of life. That's all I have to say.
Yes, no, that's a great point. Because it's almost like the supermarket is life, and that and we're all traveling down those aisles until we get to the river Styx. Yeah,
I also like the fact that it's at night because there's like a different sort of feeling when you go at night. And yet when you see like the whole families or something like that, you're wondering like why so late at night with the whole family. Like there's always like thoughts, I think, when you're kind of like going through and you kind of don't mind your business as you're getting your stuff. You're kind of like looking around and things. And so it has like that
Yeah.
dream-like quality. So you kind of do almost you just believe it because it's kind of like the real, but then it's taking some of his own imaginings of what he imagines sort of things are going on. And not makes it up, but like kind of has like a dream-esque kind of quality with it.
yes, yes, that's a really good point because it is different shopping during the day versus the night. Completely different. Yeah,
I
Yeah.
feel the night aspect, like he's just spent the afternoon reading Whitman and then for whatever reason has ended up in the grocery store. So it's like all this Whitman swirling around, but here he is in a very concrete, specific environment. And I feel like if I were to read Whitman, I would find all of these touch points with this thinking of life and love and food and living and
yeah,
and
yeah,
then,
it's all,
as you say, being there at night, everybody's in a little bit of a dream-like state in the grocery store at night. There's something going on.
yes, yeah,
Say even the finite time that he places in there. We only have an hour left,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, so it's this kind of swirling of, what Anne's saying, reading Walt Whitman and seeing these things and that's what all of us poets do, right? We're making all these connections. And yet we can follow him because we're in the supermarket. Parv said Odyssey in the supermarket and feel absurd resonates with me. Shallow, superficial shopping for food, questioning our choices for food. Yeah, I mean, this line here of, the husbands, the aisles full of husbands. Like, and that goes back to Chris's point of, in the evening. I mean, at that point, right, in 1955, you probably didn't see too many husbands during the day in the supermarket, but at night, maybe more of them would have come out. And then, the wives and the avocados, baby, he's just having fun here, and I think that's something to think about too. We should have fun in our poetry, right? We should play around. I mean, yes, there's seriousness here, of course, but he's having a little playing with words. And it's almost, and then possessing every frozen delicacy. I mean, back then, I wonder what the frozen delicacies were. What what that could have been like. But what's so interesting here is that the poem still holds even today. And this was how many years ago? I mean, in the supermarket. I guess it was a pretty big supermarket for that time. So yeah, I think when I think of this poem, I think it gives us permission to push the envelope, just take chances. I feel like he really took chances here. and he had fun with it too. And then, you know, as the dear father gray beard, I mean, he's, you know, he's getting quite intimate with Walt Whitman. And I think we should do that too with people that, you know, we think of as our, as, you know, mothers and fathers and of our poetry. Because that's a great thing to do, to make a connection with poets that you admire in your poem, because often that can lead to whole other poems that you never thought of. So I would urge you to do that. And then the whole thing of Dear Father, that's kind of like a religious, right? It's a religious, feels religious to me, address. American abundance. But it feels superficial. Okay. Yeah, there's that tension. Tim, do you want to say more about that?
Well, no, I mean, you know, knowing a bit about both Ginsberg and Whitman, you know, sort of have this macro view, I guess, of them. Like, this is like much more of a social political type poem than the last one we read, which was very personal, you know, and, you know, knowing that both Ginsberg and Whitman, you know, fancied themselves as speakers of the American spirit or what have you, you know, that's how I read this. And then just the whole sense of abundance, and, you know, the 1950s, everything was all fake, and, you know, the whole story.
Right, and it's still very relevant to
Performance.
today, right? The complete commentary on today as well. Sort of the have and the have-nots, and who has the abundance and who doesn't, and waste. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. Childless old, lonely old grubber poking among meats and eyeing grocery boys. Funny. Yes, yes. So let's keep going to Toy Derricott. Wonderful poet, born in 1941, professor of writing at the University of Pittsburgh, and also founder with Cornelius Eady of Cave Canem Foundation. I got to hear her read, I think it was a few years ago. It's really, really wonderful. So My Dad and Sardines. May I ask you, Amy Joy, would you like to read it?
Okay, let me see if my headset is, aha.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My dad's going to give me a self back. I've made an altar called the altar for healing the father and child, and asked him what I could do for him so he would do nice for me. He said I should stop saying bad things about him. And since I've said just about everything bad I can think of, and since, well, no, I changed my mind. I can't promise him that. But even healing is negotiable. Sorry, that's kind of funny. Even healing is negotiable. So if he's in heaven or trying to get in, it wouldn't hurt to be in touch. The first thing I want is to be able to enjoy the little things again. For example, to stop peeling down the list of things I have to do and enjoy this poem. Enjoy how last night, scurrying the cupboards I found a can of sardines that must be 5 years old. And since I was home after a long trip, and since it was 1 a.m. and I hadn't eaten dinner, and since there was no other protein in the house, I cranked it open and remembered that my dad loved sardines right before bed with onions and mustard. I can't get into my dad's old heart, but I remember that look on his face when he would load mustard on the saltine cracker, lay a little fish on top, and tip it with a juicy slice of onion. Then he'd look up from his soiled fingers with one eyebrow raised, a rakish grin that said, "All for me," as if he was getting away with murder.
Ah, great. It was great reading. You look like it felt like you were having fun reading it. So, what's happening here? What, if we really wanted to break down the poem, very different than the Ginsberg poem and the one before that too.
I felt
you
like
know,
she came to this realization that the person she hated and couldn't say anything great about was the person who she was emulating and being most like. She did, like, it just hit her in that 1 a.m. moment while she was eating sardines because of all the reasons that she couldn't escape it. But I feel like she actually likes that snack.
yes, and the kind of yeah, the poignancy part of saying absolutely yes, that it kind of what Kevin Young, we were talking about last week about how the food brings us back to these kind of primal memories and associations. And I just feel like this is such a good example of that. And just totally from craft to this all the ampersands I just think works so well here. It's almost like a little sardine there in the poem. And the there, I think there are some numbers here too. Just to kind of the poem it takes on a whole personality just in its physical way that it's on the page. So I just wanted to point that out. And all of the the onions and mustard, these foods take on larger than life meaning by the end. And how she does that by like what Amy Joy was saying, she's sort of coming to this through the back door, right? Of this whole realization of the father and the child and the healing and what happened. We don't know. And any other comments before we go? Just I would love to hear how this poem struck you.
I had an initial reaction of, we hear about unconditional love between parent and child or between whoever. And I had a first reaction of unconditional hostility. Like, we can still enjoy moments and we can still have all these conversations and we don't have to revise our feeling of, you're a punk. And that that bit about this is what he eats before bed. Is this what his wife is still alive? You know, it's like these are some really strong flavors all together. It's a real punch of a snack. And then just this sense of the father being some intractable, unmovable force. My grandfather, who had one German ancestor and always had herring in his refrigerator, kind of therefore, and like everybody else in the family hated herring or made fun of him for eating herring, and it was almost like definitely he was going to keep eating herring the more everyone made fun of him. And this kind of thing seems like it's like the kid in your class who you dare to drink pickle juice. And so now it's a party trick.
Yeah,
So you've got this vision of these two people that are vivid and strong and big personalities in spite of or because of this friction between them.
yes, yes, and what's so great is we don't know any of that. Like we don't really know. I mean, we can kind of make up a story about it. But the sardines and the onion and what the father eats says it all. That's quite something to achieve, right? I mean, people write novels about their relationship with their father. And here we have this poem about sardines, and we can kind of create a story just by these details. And the whole thing at the end with the murder, you know, as if he was getting away with murder. Like he was enjoying, you know, he was sneaking it in to really enjoy that moment. So anyway, so with these poems, Chris, did you want to say something?
I was just thinking with the last line that you were saying, like it goes kind of back to the beginning where like she's asked, or he or she is asking their father to kind of be nice to them. And you would think like that parent-child relationship, like the parent would automatically always want to be kind. So like, you know, there's a thicker story there. And I kind of feel like maybe the speaker thinks that they're always kind of not getting what they need from their father. And so like, they're not willing to make that first move. So I think they're becoming stronger. And I think that's why they aren't gonna negotiate this time, because it feels like a slight every time. That's kind of like how when I was going back and I read it again, I was like, oh, that murder line, like if you read it back again, kind of gave me a different feeling this time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And that's a great point, because what you want is your reader to hook them, and so that they go back to the beginning and read it again. And that's not an easy thing, but she does it. She does it here. So very, very good point. Very good point. And then the title, you know, oh, we have Nicole here. Hello, Nicole. And My Dad and Sardines, you know, of course you're going to read that poem, right? It's very inviting. There's a lot going on in this poem, you know, it's poignant, but there's you know, it seems like this is the beginning of a lot of poems about her relationship with her father, but it kind of is like, hey, come hear this story. So it's kind of like an invitation. So wanted to point that out as well. But anyway, so let's go to the prompt, because the hour just always flies by. And again, this is a suggestion, but if other things have kind of stayed in your mind, go with that. So pick a fruit, describe its appearance without naming it. And include its taste, smell, feel, and sound. What do you eat with it? Yes, but go, if this is not inspiring you, go in another direction. And it's now 7:37. So let's meet back here in 10 minutes, about 10 minutes. And let's all mute.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, can you
Hey.
guys hear me?
Yeah, we're in prompt mode now.
Okay, I will be silent. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm coming from somewhere else, so.
No. Cool. In the meantime, I don't know if you could think of a poem in your mind, but the prompts are pick a fruit, describe its appearance without naming it, the taste, who you eat it with, etc. Or I don't know if you've read any of the poems that we were discussing today prior. You could probably use one of those as a springboard to your own poem. Cool.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll be back in.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Amy Joy. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 more minutes. All right, we're back. How's everyone doing? 10 minutes goes by in a flash. Um, Chris, would you like to read something?
Sure.
Or
I
the
can-
beginnings of something?
I didn't quite finish, but I can read what I got so far.
Okay.
I imagine their delicate hands snagging on the branches and thorns, picking at the spears quickly, some hard and small like pebbles that may still count in the evening's weigh-in, some so ripe they burst like water balloons, staining their hands. I look at my own hands, pale with scrapes and blue ink that sometimes I feel like I don't deserve because I never had to spend my summers out in the field. Sweating, aching arched backs, lifting heavy buckets. I remember going to visit my mom one summer. She worked at the farm. She rubbed the blue bulbs on her apron, plopped one in my mouth. It throws me off sometimes eating one. The juicy, bittersweet tang explodes on my tongue as I squish it on the roof of my mouth. Then I see my mother, grandmother, and aunts, darker skin, and then ended right there. 10 minutes are up.
Ah, wow, very evocative. You never named it.
Tried not to, so hard not to.
But it was like a lovely, like a family, ancestral, yeah, wow. So you're gonna keep at it.
Yeah, I brought up some stuff. It was a blueberry because my mom worked in a blueberry farm, and so did like a lot of Indian people in the city I'm from, in the summers to make some extra cash. So yeah, I just remember little bits and pieces of it that I was bringing back some of the stuff when we were reading the first poem. So I kind of want to explore more of that.
Oh, good, good. Wow, is that, yeah, I know you're from Canada, right?
Yeah, from Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, okay. Wow, so blueberries there in the summer, huh?
Berries as well. I just remember blueberries, like the ones that stain the most, I find. So I think that one just stayed in my mind a little bit bigger.
Ah, okay. Very evocative. Anne, and then Laura. Anne, I was reading what you wrote about the frozen the frozen desserts, the frozen foods.
Yeah. We're back in the city after the canoe trip with 3 leftover apples. They've been rolling around in the bottom of a canoe for 2 days, and they're okay now. But those soft bits will become bruises if left untended. My mother doesn't do pie crust. It's so finicky. 3 apples and look at that, a peach, are enough for a crumble. But we're out of butter and it turns out milk. So it's back in the car full of tents and gear and to the grocery store. Boat's shoes squeaking on the aisles, loading a basket with river cleaned hands. Home to bust those leftovers into a pan, unpack while the last of summer juices waft from the oven. The real end of the trip, over the kitchen table, forks in hand.
Wow. Wow. I keep hearing mom doesn't do crust. Other people can comment too. People are commenting and also on Chris's poem. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that poem, and I feel with the mom and it's amazing what food brings up.
I agree.
Cool.
So the line with the crust really stood out, and I also like the last line with the forks in the hand. Like that, just so like vivid and just I just love that. Really well done, Anne.
Thanks.
Yes. What can you read that line about the crust? What was it exactly?
My mother doesn't do pie crust. It's
That was a great line.
My mother, yeah. You see it like it just resonates, right? It just all that means. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, so Laura, would you like to read? And then I see that Parv had.
Okay.
But you go ahead, Laura, and then we'll read the Parv poem here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is extremely short. Hold on, and I wrote it in the car. The sweetness is a tease hiding in the rock hard flesh beneath speckled brown skin, which covers an hourglass body oozing lusciousness. Except not this time, not ever you tease. You bartlett bastard.
Wait, it got cut off a little. Can you read it once more?
Yeah, okay, hold on. The sweetness is a tease, hiding in the rock hard flesh, beneath speckled brown skin, which covers an hourglass body oozing lusciousness. Except not this time, not ever you tease, you Bartlett bastard.
Oh, I totally missed the Bartlett bastard. That's great. That's like a little Marilyn Chin. Did you read her in this week's poem? She does all these, if you look at the packet, the first one, she does all these riffs.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, you Bartlett
Yeah.
bastard. Boy, I wouldn't want to get on your wrong side, Laura.
But I was trying to ripen pears and they never ripen. They never ripen. Maybe once every 6 months you buy pears that ripen. It's very frustrating because I love pears.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so the bastard even is more, you've earned it. Nice, and in the car too.
yeah, right.
Sassy, yeah. Park says sassy. Nice. So Park, should we read, and then Amy Joy and Nicole? Nothing for Amy Joy, okay. Next time. Let's read Parv. Parv, I'm gonna read your poem. Describe fruit without naming it. Red Heart
It's
Husk.
way too late to take exit 46 toward Manhattan, Randall's Island.
Oh, hold on, I'm gonna mute you, Laura. Describe, wait, is there? Okay. I'm just listening in tonight, but these are all great. Okay, Nicole. Hopefully next time. Here, let's read this here. Describe fruit without naming it. Red hard husk outside a pointy top, like a hedgehog spiky, hard to peel without using a knife. Tiny little shard, tart, sour, dripping like red jewels of blood cascading down one's fingertips. Smell exotic of Persia, Red River roulette of mystery mayhem, hard little seeds, deep ruby red color, sour on tip of tongue. Sourness, bitterness disintegrates as morsels or greedily consumed, scented in pilo rice, consumed alongside bland, squishy blueberries, dropped in a pot of bland Greek yogurt, scattered on mussel porridge, exotic, foreign, ruby red, like the sun setting dusk, mystical mayhem. Ah, intriguing. Lots of M's. Muck, like the porridge, made me think of the porridge. Delicious, yes, jewels of blood. And what was, I didn't say that right, Pilau. How would you pronounce that? Why? I don't know. Pilau. Oh, okay. Yes. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we feel it and we see it. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You think of food with taste, right? But it's actually many more senses involved. Actually, all of them. And then if you put the emotional part of it, you have, it's even a fuller impact. Very, very intriguing, all in 10 minutes. So the pomegranate, which makes me think of our Ginsburg down at the River Styx. But would anybody else like to make a comment, or Tim? Tim, would you like to read or comment?
I prefer if anybody else was left to read before me, for them to read, if there is anyone.
And no, I think we've
exhausted.
We've exhausted our great group.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll read something. I was plugging into the father issues of the last poem more than going with the description. I don't know what a title is yet, but anyway, my father drove everyone mad in my family with his habit of pouring leftover salad dressings into the same vessel, a quart Miracle Whip jar, whose jumbled contents, French and Russian and Roquefort with ranch and blue cheese and green goddess, was a slimy pink in its color and very toxic in its chemistry. I choked it down on the iceberg lettuce salads my mother reluctantly served each night, embarrassed by my father's depression mentality, and served every ounce. There's more to come, but that's where I got to.
Oh, wow. Everyone's clapping and snapping. That you're onto something, Tim. No, you know, this whole, going back to the refrigerator poem. Kind of the dressing is really telling us a whole lot about father. So I'd love to see where that takes you. And the color, I mean, that's insane. What color did it become? What? No, not what's happening, but what was the color that you said it became?
Well, it's a slimy pink, but it kind of reminds me of just sort of like salmon in the Bassomatic, you know, kind of thing, but.
Yes,
mean-
yes. No, I can definitely relate to that the parents of that generation. So I think it's very rich. Yeah, so I could see that being a very long poem. You know, wherever that leads to. But Amy Joy, thank you, Tim. Was there anything that you feel like you're gonna be working on?
I started something and then I got lost and I started something else.
Okay. Okay, well, don't throw them away.
Okay. I'll try to see what I could salvage from these two completely random and isolated thoughts.
Yes.
Thank you for this space to, you know, get something on paper.
Good. Yeah, and next week, Chris says homework for AJ. So next week or last week, I feel like this whole workshop just was like one walk in the supermarket. But next week, we're going to look at, if you haven't just give it a peek with Jane Hirschfeld and Mary Ruffle and Paisley Rexdale, who I recently discovered in the last 2 years, and we'll end with the pair, Laura. So Laura, the pair is coming back to you next week.
The pair is coming back to me next
Yes,
week.
yes.
Will it be
that's
right
the-
by then?
Yes, 'cause that's the title of the poem. It's a really I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks of next week's poem. So anyway, this was lovely. Any last thoughts before we part until next week? No, okay. All right. Thank you. Be well. Keep
Okay,
at
thank
it.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next week. Bye, Nicole.
Bye.